Hello my friends, welcome to this quick Tristana guide. I will quickly show you everything that you need to actually play this champion in your ranked games. Who am I to tell you though? I was a full-time pro player, reached Challenger in the past 4 seasons, and now let's go straight into the video. So when it comes to runes, it's pretty default. Currently on this patch 26.13 you go Lethal Tempo and then kinda always Triumph and then Alacrity, or you can also go the Lifesteal one followed up with Cut Down. And for your second tree, right now the best runes would be Cashback and Triple Tonic, but obviously you can still play around with it a bit. If you have big flash value in your game, for example, you can also go Cosmic Insights or different ones. Then when it comes to itemization regarding starter items, I think Doran's Blade and also Doran's Bow can both be good. And then the question becomes like, what do we go as a first item? Because there are many things that we can actually go on Tristana. So there would first of all be the Kraken Slayer route. Basically, it always depends on when you want to have like your biggest power spike. When we go the Kraken Slayer route, then we will be pretty strong on one item, but our power spike on 2 items and also on 3 items is actually falling a bit off. But on one item we will be really strong, but I would not advise you to play this. What I would advise you to rather play is either Yuntal on her or Hex Optics, which is also really good. So let's say we would go the Hex Optics route right now, then we can either follow it up with building Navori second, but only if we can actually hit a lot of enemies and get resets by it, or what we can also do is go Infinity Edge second. Then you will have these 2 items and will be pretty strong. As third item, then you are still flexible. You can go attack speed item, but you can obviously also just go itemize into like a Last Whisper item if the enemies have a lot of armor, and the rest is kind of flexible. And now if we would go like the different route, right, where we would go Yuntal first item, then we'll follow it up with Infinity Edge, and then you are still kind of flexible if you want to go the attack speed route or you need armor penetration already. Then I would say Tristana is a pretty simple champion and especially really good for beginners. Let's talk about her passive first. So Tristana's attack range and the range of Explosion Charge and Buster Shot are increased by 150. So basically your attack range is actually scaling, and if we would be like not level 18 right now, our attack range would be way lower. So in general, I would say Tristana is a really good hyper carry champion because your attack range is just scaling with your levels. Then when it comes to a Q spell, really easy spell actually, you just press Q and you gain 120% attack speed for 7 seconds. And of course this is really broken because you have a lot of attack speed, and especially let's say we would have Navori on our item build right now. Then for example, if you are using Q right now and we just start auto attacking, you already see our Q cooldown is going down really fast, and we have it back up again before it's actually running out. Then the W is just the rocket jump. You're jumping on the enemy, slowing them for 40% for 2 seconds. The most important part about the spell though is if you are killing an enemy or getting an assist on the enemy, then your W is actually getting another charge. So basically when I would jump in and I'm fighting this target dummy now and I would kill him, then I get my jump back up again. This is really good and something you need to keep in mind when playing Tristana. Then another important part with the W, it's combined with the E. When you're using W and E in the air, then you can actually proc 1 stack of your E already. Super important mechanic. Then when it comes to an E spell, we basically have a passive and an active. So the passive is that whenever Tristana is killing something, then there will be a surrounding. So let's say you are killing a minion, for example, then there will actually be a AoE damage. You can chunk the enemies with it, for example, in lane or like easily contest pushes. And then when it comes up to her E, then there's a bomb and we can attack it 4 times. As you see, 2 times, 3 times, and with the 4th time, now I would actually detonate it and then it will do a lot of damage. So it's basically just stacking up. You can proc it with auto attacks, and the moment basically you're getting your 4th auto on the enemy, it's actually just exploding and you deal a lot of damage. If you're not hitting, like let's say you just do this, then it will do way less damage. What's important to say about the E is that you can actually use it on the turret. So let's say you want to push, then you should really look to use the E on the turret because it does a lot of damage, and you can also clear waves that are like around the turret. And then when it comes to Tristana's ultimate, basically you're just knocking the enemy away, doing a lot of damage with it because they're like briefly stunned as well, and you basically get a lot of range. We're talking about summoner spells. Usually we always go flash, and secondary one we always need to adapt because usually if people go exhaust into Tristana, you kinda need cleanse, and if they have like a lot of CC, you know, so whenever you're jumping in and the enemies have exhaust and you don't have cleanse, then you cannot do your burst damage because especially in the early game you are pretty burst heavy, right? So the second one you always need to adapt. If it's barrier, if it's cleanse, I would say one of these two. Maybe there are even angles for taking exhaust yourself. And now when it comes to special mechanics, there's actually not a lot. It's just important as Tristana that you just keep hitting scaling, and when you want to all in, for example in lane, it's important that you play with bushes. So I see a lot of Tristana players just chilling here in lane and not being a threat. But the moment you're actually going into a bush, then you will see that even like here, or like even further I would say, like even here, you can still jump on these targets, like by Wing and then doing this, you know? So that's regarding lane, and later when you you want to maximize your damage, you need to get a feeling for this, but best case, you basically time your E and your ultimate to go off. So let's say I would put down my E right now, and then I Q auto, ult, auto, and you see the moment basically I'm shooting my ulti, my last auto attack is coming with it. That's it already. It was only a short guide and really just a beginner's guide for Tristana. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any sort of questions, feel free to reach out in the comment section or write me on Discord, and have a good day. Bye bye.